the natal government, the natal parliament in South Africa, had imposed all kinds of volatile, virulent acts against Indians in South Africa. But the Asiatic Law Amendment Ordinance of 1906 was particularly preposterous. It reduced Indians to semi-criminal status. Every single Indian aged 8 or over would need to get their hands fingerprinted with the Office of Registrars. If they didn't, then the Indians, when confronted by the police, could get arrested, fined, chucked in prison. So Mahatma Gandhi called a meeting. And I'd like to take you on a little journey today. And that journey starts here, in the Empire Theatre in Farrier Street in Johannesburg, the scene for this fateful meeting in 1906, September the 11th, 1906. In that meeting, Gandhi had called people to respond to this despicable, impending law. It was then when a Muslim, Sheikh Habib, sprung to his feet and he said, "As God is witness," he would not succumb to this cowardly law. What was Gandhi to do? You see, this changed everything for Gandhi. This had moved things from the term that he borrowed from Thoreau of civil disobedience to something more. Gandhi was no stranger to the significance of evoking God in a political struggle through his own spiritual development. He knew what this meant. He knew that he had a choice to stay along the civil disobedience route and the pledge route, or move to this new arena, that of a religious vow. In Gandhi's words, there is only one course open for those like me: to die, but not to obey the law. To die, but not to obey the law. But what was everyone else going to do? There were 3,000 Transvaal Indians here, Hindus and Muslims. And it wasn't Gandhi's style to coerce people to his way of thinking. That just wasn't his style. No, if needs be, he'd educate and talk to them one by one if necessary. What happened? Well, he explained to everyone their responsibilities, the potential implications of breaking the law. And every single person in that room, one by one by one, considered their responsibilities, stood up, and made an oath with God that they would not succumb to this cowardly law, the Asiatic Law Amendment Ordinance. Gandhi recalled in a letter 20 years later, "I can never forget the scene that is present before my mind's eye as I write. The community's enthusiasm knew no bounds." That, ladies and gentlemen, was the birth of Satyagraha, the force which is born out of truth and love or non-violence. September the 11th, 1906. And it was this same force, this non-violent force, this soul force, which inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who actually used the word soul force in his "I Have a Dream" speech. It inspired him to fight, to champion the civil rights movement in the US. As he said, Christ supplied the spirit, Gandhi supplied the method. It was the same soul force that inspired Nelson Mandela to fight apartheid in South Africa. It was the same soul force that helped bring down the Berlin Wall without blood being shed. It was the same soul force that, according to scholars, helped free 3.3 billion people, over half the world's population, in the last 100 years. Now, that's a pretty good global news story worth spreading. All started, Sheikh Haji Habib sparked the crisis in Gandhi, 9/11/1906. So where do we go from Mr. Mandela and the Berlin Wall? The media's the most powerful entity on earth. It has the power to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. They were Malcolm X's words in the 1960s. 1960s! I mean, I may be older than I look, which is about 14. I appreciate that. I'm 16 and a half. But the media is the most powerful entity on earth. How much has the media changed in the last 40, 50 years or so? Let's think about the computers and the birth of the internet, Twitter. Now, with that increased power comes increased responsibility. With any power comes responsibility. And there have been certain sections of the media with reports of Muslim terrorists following the attack of 9/11, with repeated images over and 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 over again of planes crashing into Twin Towers, leaving us feel helpless, hopeless, insecure, and scared. So what is the media's responsibility? It's certainly not to say that the world's full of smiling people, bunny rabbits bouncing everywhere, and children holding hands, skipping along green pastures. No, it's to report, to reflect the community they serve. But in a post-9/11 era, the media's got a responsibility to have some degree of knowledge about the issues that they reflect. So the media has a responsibility to improve its faith literacy as it covers this most sensitive and resonating subject.